few days since I posted a video. I've been on or was on Mediterranean cruise starting in Barcelona and then ending in Athens, Greece. Um, it's always great to get out of the country um, and see how other people live, but also just get a change of scenery every now and then. But I'll probably be making a video on my thoughts on other countries in comparison to the U.S. But nonetheless, I am back, and man, I got back yesterday, and this week has started off with some bangers from news that's happened. Really today, um, but while I was gone, I really wasn't able to keep up with much of the news. The internet on the cruise ship was not great. Um, and the only channel, ironically, that they had available on there was Fox. But when you're 6 hours ahead, it makes it hard to follow up with trending stories and trending news, especially as it pertains to U.S. politics. But it's actually kind of nice to unplug for a little bit and not keep up with what's going on kind of in the news. And to be honest, there really wasn't a whole lot that happened last week, but some interesting things that happened today is the indictment of Raul Castro, the former Cuban president. Um, it leaves a lot of questions. If you watch the press conference, like me, you probably noticed the logical question, which is, so what does this mean? The Biden administration put out um, ultimately the Venezuelan president is no longer in Venezuela, is now the former president because the Biden administration put out a warrant for him. Um, and the Trump administration followed through on it and actually arrested him. So are we going to do that with Raul Castro? I mean, the dude's like super old. Um, yeah, I don't know if it makes sense, but if we're following the Venezuela model, we may be going in and getting Raul Castro out of Cuba and bringing him to the U.S. To face charges. And that means that there may be other people that are also around him that are taken out by accident, that may be part of the government, that creates more destabilization there and makes it easier for the U.S. To either make Cuba a potential new Puerto Rico or Guam, or install a government that is more amenable to the U.S., where we can start real diplomatic relations and get them truly unplugged from Russia and some of these other countries in which they're dealing with. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, that one was interesting to say the least. Um, this one happened. I think this one was more on the weekend. But DC's got some problems with youth. I grew up in Northern Virginia. My dad had an auto shop in Northwest DC, which is now the top corner of the convention center that's there on Ninth and N Northwest. All of that stuff got demolished for the convention center, but I was there in the 80s and early 90s, or actually late 90s, at his shop and visiting him and whatnot. And I spent a lot of time in DC. DC in the 80s and 90s is not like the DC today. DC today is much safer in comparison, but there's still a lot of issues with youth violence. Back in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't really the youth that was the problem. It was crack and kind of the drug war that was kind of going on there, which made parts of the city unlivable. If you ever got to go to Anacostia or where the Nationals ballpark is, which is now a beautiful place. If you went there in the '80s, chances are you're going to be shot. Not not a super great place to want to hang out in. But now DC is dealing with this youth issue. I saw a lot of people up in arms about going after parents, but at some point you've got to draw the line with these kids, and I can say kids because they're under 18, and a lot of them are under 15, that are out there just causing trouble, whether it's getting into fights, group fights, or it's street takeovers where they're doing burnouts and crap like that in the middle of the street. Like you can't have that, especially in the parts of the city where it's happening, where you have a lot of wealthy people that have invested a lot into making DC a better place, only to have it taken over by a bunch of reckless youth. There's got to be a line drawn somewhere, and there's got to be accountability somewhere. The youth system just turns kids in and out. They're not really going to juvenile detention anymore. More likely than not, they're getting the same treatment that adults who are habitual offenders are getting, which is, we feel bad for you, your upbringing, this, that, and the other. We're not going to give you time in jail, or in this case, in youth detention. We're just going to release you back out. And so these kids just continue to escalate and escalate and escalate. And it probably will get worse before it gets better. But I think, in a lot of scenarios, I don't agree with this particular take on charging parents or going after parents, but I think some examples need to be made to where, parents start to crack down on their kids and doing the things they should have been doing, which is raising them to not do this stuff to begin with. So we'll see what happens there. There was the what's this one? That's right, the primaries that happened yesterday. There's a lot of online consternation in regards to Massie and some of these other folks that got voted out. And the common frame that they're talking about is, oh, the elections bought this, that, and the other. Well, sorry to break the news to the folks that are diehard Massie fans. It is not the AIPAC money or Israel or this, that, and the other that got Massie booted. It's his voting record. Trump got elected by MAGA and the Republicans, an electoral win as well as a national popular vote win with an agenda. And that agenda wasn't Epstein files, this, that, and the other, and all of these side quests. It's, getting immigration taken care of. It's solidifying or codifying all of the executive orders he's putting through, which we, the people, voted for, including the majority of Kentucky. And so the fact that he, I get it, like, Massie, has a consistent vote against things that require budget. I get it. And there's, certain philosophies he has that he's pretty consistent on. Well, those philosophies don't align with where the voters are. So now Massie is gone. No amount of money pushed into an election would have changed the outcome. The other guy that was running would have still won just by the fact that Massie is essentially, putting a stop to, sorry, or is being one of the blockers for the broader Trump agenda, which again, the people within Massie's own district in which he represents voted for. Those people, the people of Kentucky, voted Massie out. Money didn't do that. Voters did. Voters didn't like the fact that he was caught up in all this online conjecture and whatever, and thought it was super important. Their focus was on Trump's agenda. Now Massie's gone, along with a lot of other people that decided they wanted to either vote against Trump's agenda, not support it, in the way of some of these redistricting efforts, especially after Virginia got super aggressive. Illinois being one of those places, it was Illinois or Indiana. But at any rate, you know, there's no longer a time where you can be like this staunch principled person and whatnot. I mean, you can be that, but your principles need to align with the agenda that's being voted in by the broader public, and including those within your own district. I think a lot of representatives have kind of moved away from this representing the people thing to their own interests and their own self-interests, and those days are gone. The Republican Party is a primary example. The current Republican Party, which I would just define as MAGA, which is branded as Republican, um, no longer wants to have representatives that do that. I mean, that is essentially why Trump won in 2016. It was because you get tired of all of these politicians not doing the things that the people want. Democrats are feeling the same thing, right? There's the entire Bernie Sanders movement, which is essentially being sidelined. And I don't think that's a good thing for Democrats to not acknowledge that stuff. That's important to those specific voters. Um, they probably need to moderate that a bit more and not be so like far left in it, but they need to acknowledge it. And right now, Trump is the only one that's acknowledging it, and the current Republican, aka MAGA party, is the only one that's really doing that. And those people that are within the political system that want to continuously vote against the interests of the people in which they represent are going to find themselves on their butt and looking for a new job. And so people like Massie are out. The money, not really the issue here. It's his choices as far as like what he thought was important. Um, the Justice Department announces, $1.7 billion anti-weaponization fund. This one was interesting because I see a lot of people like losing their mind about it. But Democrats are pretty open about actively going after or wanting to go after people within Trump's orbit, particularly cabinet officials and other folks. And the real shame about what happens in politics, and let's just move Trump aside, but typically what ends up happening is the government always wins. Whether it's a Democrat or Republican that's doing this lawfare crap, the reality is that the government has endless resources. And unless you're a multi-billionaire, you could be screwed. You can be made to look guilty because you can't afford to fight the charges that are in front of you. And so, a lot of people fall under this. There's been a lot of people that fell under it under Bush's administration, under Clinton's administration, that were just kind of the people that were the ones that were hung out to the pasture because the real people in power needed someone to take the fall. And so, it makes it real easy to sideline people and force them into taking plea deals because they just can't afford to fight the case in front of them. I mean, we saw this, however you feel about the Georgia prosecution of Trump's election challenge. The real reason why some of those people took plea deals, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, was because they couldn't afford to fight it. They couldn't afford to fight it. And if they could have afforded to fight it, they would have had it run out just like it did with the other folks because Trump had the money to fight it and really, wasn't backing down from it. But, the average person isn't a multi-billionaire. The average person, might, at least in politics and around politics, might have tens of thousands, maybe a couple 100,000 they've saved up for their lifetime. That's retirement money, maybe a couple million. That money gets burned up real quick when you're dealing with these lawsuits with the federal government, when they can just hammer you with all of this stuff. Oh, these charges didn't stick. Here comes a new set of charges. Oh, you lied to the FBI, charges. And you're just kind of fighting for your life. Again, this isn't a Republican or Democrat issue, but currently, um, Democrats have made it clear that they were going to go after Trump officials and the administration um, after this. If they do end up winning the presidency, um, 2028, if it's not Trump. Just kidding. Um, Same thing for these midterms, right? Like everybody knows that regardless of any legitimate reason, Democrats are going to impeach Trump if they win the midterms, which, by the way, it's about a 50-50 chance. It's based on redistricting that's happened, especially after racial redistricting got struck down by the court. So, you know, this fund makes a lot of sense. It probably burns a lot of people's britches, especially if you're on the left. But the reality is, I think both sides are going to need to start to have funds like this moving forward, um, because I think the lawfare is only going to continue to escalate. Um, there was the suspects in the San Diego mosque shooting, which was pretty interesting. I mean, it's sad. It's just, I mean, you never want to see stuff like this. But nonetheless, it's been interesting. The manifesto got released today. They really just hated everyone. Um, they were anti MAGA. They hated Muslims. They hated Jews. They hate LGBTQ, all the telltale signs of people that really just need to find help. You pair that ultimately with what I would classify as mental illness, and you have a recipe for disaster. It's unfortunate. I mean, luckily, uh, it wasn't a mass casualty event like many of these are, but nonetheless, people died, and I hope that I hope that other people don't follow in the footsteps. But unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that, and we'll probably see these happen again. By the way, I hate the Daily Mail site. It's like, come on, guys. The advertising is just so much on here, and it's just like ridiculous. I should have found another site. I apologize to everyone for that. But one thing that happened before I left for vacation, that I think is like pretty underappreciated, especially as someone who was born and raised in the U.S. and had this as a kid growing up, was Trump bringing back the Presidential Physical Fitness Awards. Most people sleep on this, but the fact that it was killed under Obama was just a sign that um, physical fitness and striving for excellence was just getting killed. And that was the first area you saw it. Then you saw, you know, other more left leaning areas in the country start to remove the gifted and talented program. In Northern Virginia, we have both the gifted, where we had, I say we have, I'm not in North Carolina, but they have the gifted and talented program within schools and allows kids to skip grades, which there were quite a few of the Asian students that were really good, that skipped grades in elementary school and middle school, and ultimately ended up graduating early and then going to college and doing great things. Um, this is Fairfax County, Loudoun County, where I grew up. But then you also had TJ, which is Thomas Jefferson, which was gifted and talented on steroids. So, like, if you were in Fairfax County, you wanted your kid to get accepted to TJ. TJ was usually the gateway um, into just great things. I mean, like most of the kids that I know that went to TJ ended up graduating from Virginia Tech, top of the class in engineering, or went to UVA, top of class, or went to MIT and other places. Like these are super smart kids that were given programs that helped accelerate their ability to learn. Um, at any rate, one of the areas that was always there was, we had PE, and then, once a year there was the preparation for the physical fitness testing. So it required us to go out and do practice miles and, do sit ups and do pull ups and all of this stuff. Sprinting, there was the relay, which had to do it in a certain amount of time. All of it was focused on the betterment of kids and bringing exercise to kids that otherwise probably wouldn't see much of it. And you fast forward to today, and now we've got like the internet is a thing. Um, Online gaming is a thing. Game consoles is a thing. This stuff wasn't really as prevalent in the 70s, definitely not in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. Gaming consoles started to come out through the early 80s, um, and then really rocketed. But now with how fast everybody's internet is, it's like you're just online gaming. There's Twitch streamers that just play online and have people watch them, and kids enjoy this stuff. But at any rate, the ability for kids to not go outside and play and do the stuff that kids should be doing, which is exercising, and having some level of physical fitness like in your life. um, not having that was a bad thing. I think bringing it back is a good thing. And for those kids that are very competitive, like myself, it's always great because it's a way in which you can compete and get better at something that has tangible results in your overall health and well-being. So it was cool to see this one come back. But I do love the articles, right? Like it's like the Fox News one is like, you know, I would say it's not as biased, but it's like it's kind of talking about like the end under Obama era, and then bringing back physical fitness benchmarks. And then you go to like MSNBC, again, revives annual physical fitness tests. And then we go to Scientific America, which is um, sadly very left leaning. And it's like the return of the Presidential Physical Fitness Award is missing the point. Health experts say, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Most ridiculous headline. And then there's the Palm Beach report or Palm Beach Post right after it. Trump reviving presidential fitness test makes me cringe opinion, written by somebody who clearly hated the physical fitness tests and that whole thing when they were younger. They were probably one of the people that was picked last in dodgeball and was the first one out. But nonetheless, it's a good thing. It's a great thing to have that back. Hopefully, it stays beyond just the Trump administration. Um, I think PE is, uh, physical education is like one of the most important classes next to reading and math that there is. Kids need to go out, they need to run, they need to learn about themselves, their physical ability. They also need to deal with adversary um, um, or adverse circumstances, right? Watching others do better than them, maybe they find it themselves to want to beat those other individuals. Um, Again, like it's all good stuff. But with that, now that I'm back, I'll be diving into some of this stuff a little deeper. But I did just want to kind of catch up on some of the things that have happened over the last couple of days. But as always, like, share, subscribe, and keep believing that the best is still ahead for us in America. Peace out.